years ago, when Emma returned home, she found her father dead on the floor and her brother severely injured. Maria came to her with a proposition. She wanted Emma to marry Jack in place of her daughter, and in exchange, she would help Emma save her brother. Faced with her comatose brother and the exorbitant medical bills, a desperate Emma agreed to Maria's request and became her fake daughter. Maria demanded that Emma must sleep with Jack on the night of their engagement, or she would cut off her brother's medical funds. The cruel maid viciously stomped on her fingers, but she could only grit her teeth and endure the pain. After the engagement party, Emma entered Jack's mansion and undressed herself. In the darkness, she closed her eyes and kissed the man in front of her. The man threw her onto the sofa and kissed her passionately, but called her sister-in-law. When she opened her eyes, he turned on the lamp, and Emma realized the man she had just kissed was Jack's brother, Luis. She quickly got up and pushed him away. Luis teased her for being too eager, but she was too scared to argue, as he was notorious for his cruelty and cold-bloodedness. He pulled her into his embrace and told her Jack was most likely cheating on her at that very moment. Unfazed, Emma remained calm, and Luis leaned into her ear, deciding to take her to witness firsthand what kind of man her fiancé truly was. Then, Emma saw Jack intimately embracing and passionately kissing his mistress, Rose. Jack and Rose were both adopted children from the Luis family, yet they're involved with each other. Emma wanted to leave, but Luis grabbed her hand. She didn't care whether Jack cheated on her, but she suddenly remembered the request of her adoptive mother Maria, who asked the maid to check whether Anna was still a virgin after the engagement night. If she was, her brother's life would be in danger. In order to save her brother, she took the initiative to kiss Luis. He pulled her to the side of the car and banged her against the car. He adjusted his glasses, then grabbed her neck and asked if she wasn't afraid of him. Emma's legs trembled in fear, but she pretended to stay calm and told him she wasn't scared. He threw her into his car, and just as he was about to kiss her, her fiancé Jack called. Jack demanded to know where she was and ordered her to return home in 20 minutes. But Luis took her cell phone away and had sex with her in the car. Afterwards, he smiled and adjusted his glasses, then patted her face and wished her a happy engagement night. When Emma returned home, Jack slapped her because he had found a man's coat in the house, unaware that it was left behind by his brother. Emma smiled and assured Jack she had never betrayed him, but he was still suspicious. Just then, Luis walked into the room. Emma panicked, worried that Luis would reveal their one-night affair. However, Luis didn't do that. He knew Jack had been causing trouble outside, so he came to warn him to stop making trouble. Jack, being just an adopted son of the family, was very submissive in front of Luis and immediately agreed to fix the mess he had caused. Emma wanted to leave, but Luis stopped her, saying, "Sorry, I interrupted your lovely night with Jack on your engagement night," while particularly emphasizing the words "lovely night." Emma didn't know how to respond, so she quickly left. Rose hugged Jack and told him the size and style of the coat resembled Luis's. However, Jack believed his brother was a very cruel man and that Emma would never have the courage to seduce him. Rose remained suspicious, so she ordered an investigation to quickly find out who the coat belonged to. On her way home, Emma was stopped by Luis, who was driving a car. He opened the door, leaned out, and called her over. She walked over, returned his suit to him, and asked him to pretend not to know her in the future. However, he grabbed her arm, caressed her chin, and suggested they live together. She pushed him away and stated that she was Jack's fiancée. But Luis smiled and said that he didn't mind because she was the one who came to seduce him first. She thought for a moment and then agreed, leaning close to him and telling him she was willing to go back to his place. He smiled and lifted her chin, becoming more interested in her. The next day, Emma was severely beaten by her foster mother, Maria, for staying out all night. Then, Maria punished her by making her kneel on the floor for half a day to reflect. Although Emma outwardly obeyed, she silently swore that once her brother woke up, she would get back at those who had hurt her. While Emma was having dinner at Jack's house, Luis also showed up. He affectionately called her sister-in-law. Jack's grandfather asked how he knew Jack's fiancée, and Luis replied that they had just met that night. Fearing Jack might overthink it, Emma quickly explained that Luis was referring to the night of their engagement. Seeing her flustered, Luis smugly took a sip of red wine. He then told everyone that someone had sent a spy to monitor him at work, so he killed the spy. After saying that, he looked at his older brother Michael, who was sitting in a wheelchair. He mocked that everyone in the room had done dirty deeds, and suddenly added, "Except for my sister-in-law. She's very obedient and well-behaved." Emma, caught off guard by his teasing, didn't know how to respond. Before Luis went to the bathroom, he mocked his older brother Michael, calling him a cripple. Michael was enraged, as he believed Luis was the one responsible for his lifelong disability, and he vowed to kill Luis that night. Emma followed Luis into the bathroom and asked him why he always said such ambiguous things. He slowly leaned in, wrapped his arm around her waist, and tried to kiss her, but she refused. He held her tighter and tightened his grip on her neck, warning her to obey. Seeing the fear in her eyes, he smiled and gently patted her head before leaving. Emma recalled her brother's words, urging her to live on, and she felt utterly helpless. She felt like she could barely hold on any longer. That night, the young masters all decided to stay at their grandfather's house, and Emma stayed behind as well. She was about to treat the wounds on her back when Luis suddenly barged into her room. She saw that he was severely injured and bleeding heavily. She slowly approached him, and he thought she was going to call someone to have him killed, but instead, she began to tend to his wounds. Emma had witnessed her father die in front of her, so she didn't want to experience that again. She asked Luis if it hurt, and he pretended it didn't. But she suddenly applied more pressure and yelled, "Ouch!" Luis was confused. He was the one who was hurt, but why was she the one crying out in pain? She teased him, saying she was shouting for him. He suddenly remembered his childhood, when his mother had beaten him severely because his father had cheated and stayed out all night. His mother took all her anger out on him. His father had forced him to kill a rabbit. He couldn't bring himself to do it, and his father kicked him to the ground, scolding him for not being ruthless enough to compete within the family. That night, his grandfather had ordered him to strip. He thought his grandfather would show some sympathy after seeing the whip marks on his back, but instead, his grandfather whipped him again. His grandfather told him that weakness would be an obstacle and pain would make him stronger. Only through ruthlessness and ambition could he have the power to stand at the top. It was in such a cruel environment that Luis had grown up, which explained why he had become the cold-blooded person he was now. Emma treated his wounds and expressed that she no longer wanted any involvement with him. He thought she wanted to distance herself from him because she was afraid of his crazed, cold-blooded nature. He agreed to her request, but warned her that if she ever tried to provoke or seduce him again, he would not let her go. Grandfather ordered Jack to steal Luis's land bid documents, but Jack was too afraid. So, he instructed Emma to do it instead. She was reluctant, but Jack angrily threatened her. Just then, her foster mother, Maria, called to inform her that her brother had woken up. However, Maria threatened her, telling her to stay close to Jack and obey him, or her brother would never wake up again. Caught between the threats from both sides, Emma had only one option. She had to get Luis's bid documents. She had just managed to distance herself from Luis, yet now she had no choice but to get closer to him again. The next day, Emma visited Luis and directly asked him for the bid documents. He agreed but made a demand. She had to work at his company and become his woman. Remembering her brother in the hospital and her foster mother's threats, Emma told Luis she couldn't leave Jack. Luis pinched her chin and asked if Jack really meant that much to her. She replied that she couldn't live without him. Luis laughed and clapped, then prepared to call Jack. Emma tried to grab his phone, but he pulled her into his arms. He leaned in, touched her face, and dialed Jack's number. Fearing he would reveal their one-night affair, Emma took off his coat and begged him not to do it. He held her tightly, saying, "The game has started. Do you want to quit now?" Too late. He tightened his grip on her neck and spoke into the phone, "That coat is mine, and that night your fiancé was in my bed." Emma thought he was crazy and tried to escape, but he suddenly pulled her into his arms. She struggled, but he whispered in her ear, telling her that, yes, he was a madman, but she would never escape him. He then revealed he hadn't actually called Jack, it was just a lesson for her. But if she tried anything again, he wouldn't be so merciful. Realizing she couldn't oppose him, Emma reluctantly wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him. Luis handed her the bid documents and warned her not to try to run. No matter where she went, he would find her. Emma's comatose brother had just woken up and told her that their father had been falsely accused and did not kill Elisa from the Vance family. Shortly after, her brother Alan fell into a coma again due to emotional distress. As Emma was leaving the hospital, she was taken back home and severely punished by her adoptive mother Maria for visiting her brother without permission. Maria demanded that Emma introduce Maria's daughter, Lily, to CEO Luis at next week's banquet. Due to Emma's late arrival at the company, Luis was a bit angry. However, when he saw her injured hand, he immediately understood the reason for her delay and took out a first aid kit to treat her wound. Emma intended to use his influence to uncover the truth about the past, so she kissed him. He couldn't understand why she didn't just leave her unfaithful fiancé, Jack, who happened to be his brother. She lied, claiming she was deeply loyal to Jack and would never leave him. Her words made Luis jealous, and he kissed her. He warned her that if he found out she was deceiving him, he wouldn't forgive her. Just then, Jack called. When she answered the phone, Jack scolded her and informed her that she should accompany him to the banquet next week. What he didn't know was that, at that very moment, his brother Luis was kissing his fiancée. He heard some sounds and questioned it, but Luis hung up and continued kissing Emma. At the banquet, Emma introduced Maria's daughter Lily to Luis. He didn't refuse and even allowed Lily to go upstairs with him. Soon after, Emma was recognized by an old enemy, Bruce, the Vance family's butler. Although she pretended not to know him, he humiliated her and promised to investigate and prove that he hadn't mistaken her. When Emma went upstairs, she found that Lily's dress had been torn. Luis told Emma that Lily had lied to him, so he had kicked her off the bed. To calm him down, Emma picked up a lighter to light his cigarette, but was instead pulled into his arms. He pulled down the strap of her dress and began flirting with her. She grabbed his tie, and they began passionately kissing on the sofa. Olivia from the Vance family arrived for an arranged marriage. She had fallen for Luis years ago and vowed to marry no one else. Luis, although uninterested, agreed to the union because it was a way to solidify his power. Bruce invited Emma to meet him at a hotel where he promised to tell her the truth about the past. On her way to the hotel, Emma received a call from Luis. She lied, claiming she was already home, unaware that he was tracking her. When she arrived at the hotel, she discovered that Luis had already beaten Bruce unconscious and was waiting for her. Emma apologized and promised not to lie to him again. He tore off his tie, tied her hands, and then bit her neck. Terrified, she apologized repeatedly, and he warned her not to do it again. To avoid raising his suspicions, Emma forged photos of Bruce attempting to assault her to cover up their relationship. Emma met Bruce at a cafe and revealed her true identity. Bruce confirmed that her father had indeed been made a scapegoat, and the Vance family had deliberately tried to wipe out her entire family. He wanted to take her to the hotel, but when she tried to call Luis, he caught her. He pinned her to a chair, intending to assault her, but Luis appeared and beat him severely. Emma was terrified, and Luis comforted her, stroking her head, covering her with his coat, and carrying her away. Bruce tried to flee, but was caught by Luis's men. During the argument, Bruce accidentally fell into the water. Due to the death of the butler Bruce, Tom, the head of the Vance family and Olivia's brother, came to accuse Luis. However, Luis showed no remorse and calmly handed Emma a glass of red wine. Olivia, jealous, grabbed Emma's arm and insulted her as a seductress. She tried to throw the wine at Emma's face, but Luis stepped in and blocked the wine from hitting her. Emma handed him a towel, and he took the opportunity to hold her hand. Jack, noticing the relationship between them, became furious. Rose suggested he tell Emma's adoptive mother, Maria, about it. After learning it, Maria whipped Emma harshly and declared she would stop treating her brother. Emma begged her not to do so, but was pushed to the ground. Luis's brother, Michael, decided to team up with Tom to deal with Luis, as he blamed Luis for causing his disability. That night, Emma found Luis being chased and injured. If she saved his life, she could use this opportunity to ask him to rescue her brother. Without hesitation, Emma rushed forward and took a stab meant for Luis. He was panicked as she collapsed unconscious in his arms. He quickly rushed her to the hospital, managing to save her life. While at the hospital, Emma's phone rang. Luis answered it, and the caller, a spy she had placed near her brother, addressed her as Anna Smith. Soon after, Luis's assistant discovered her true identity, She was not actually Emma but Anna Smith, from the Smith family that had been exterminated 3 years ago. Luis was furious upon learning that she had been lying to him all along and ordered his assistant to imprison her in his villa. She knelt and begged him to save her brother, and though he refused coldly, he secretly instructed his assistant to rescue her brother and get him top-notch medical care. Luis informed Emma that he had rescued her brother, and she was overjoyed. To take advantage of his power to uncover the truth, she proposed marriage to him. He demanded that she move into his house after being discharged, and she agreed. However, Olivia confronted her at his doorstep and slapped her. Olivia, furious, accused Emma of seducing Luis just like Elisa had, and implied that she would kill Emma the same way she killed Elisa. Emma finally discovered the real culprit behind Elisa's death. She shared this information with her now conscious brother, Alan, and assured him that she would never fall for Luis. Unfortunately, Luis overheard and, enraged, dragged her out of the room, throwing her onto his car hood. He agreed to her earlier proposal, as he wanted to trap her in marriage forever. The next day, Luis publicly announced that he would marry Emma. Furious, Jack almost got into a fight with him and slapped Emma. Emma exposed Jack's affair with Rose, shocking his grandfather. He ordered Rose to leave and locked Jack up to reflect on his actions. Emma extended her hand to Luis, and he smiled as he held it, leaving with her. Back at home, Olivia cried to her brother Tom, complaining that Luis had broken off the engagement, and Tom, enraged, planned to kill Emma to avenge his sister. Emma realized she was being followed, and suddenly someone grabbed her from behind. She screamed for help, only to discover that it was Luis. He took off his glasses and put them on her, then confronted the person following them, scaring him away. A few days later, Luis took Emma to pick out a ring and placed it on her finger. In order to please him, she promised that she would never leave him. They shared a passionate kiss in the car. That night, Tom received a call from Maria, who informed him that the Smith siblings were still alive and that Emma's true identity was Anna Smith. Maria proposed that Tom team up with her and Michael to kill Luis and Anna at the wedding. On the wedding day, Olivia revealed to Anna that Elisa had died after being pushed down the stairs while trying on her wedding dress. Olivia took out a knife and stabbed Anna, intending to kill her in the same way. Anna lost too much blood and fainted, and Olivia locked her in the bathroom. The wedding began, but the bride was nowhere to be seen. Luis searched everywhere and eventually found Emma in the bathroom. He rushed her to the hospital, where she was immediately taken into surgery. To capture Tom and Olivia, Luis temporarily left the hospital. After surgery, Anna survived, but her brother Alan, worried for her safety, begged the doctor to lie and tell Luis she had died. He explained that Anna was his only remaining family and that Luis was notorious for his cruelty. If she stayed with him, she would die. Olivia and Tom were stopped while trying to escape. Luis punched Tom to the ground, then drew a knife, intending to stab Olivia. However, his assistant informed him that the hospital had declared Anna dead. Luis rushed to the hospital, but Anna had been secretly moved to another hospital by her brother. The doctor informed him that Anna had died from blood loss. To avenge her, Luis captured Tom, Olivia, and Maria. Michael, who had been paralyzed, suddenly stood up from his wheelchair, pulled out a knife, and stabbed Luis. However, Luis quickly subdued him. The next day, Anna, who had already woken up, saw the news report that all the perpetrators had been arrested by the police. However, Luis had gone missing after the fight, and his family had decided to sever ties with him. Anna was heartbroken and anxious. Despite her weak condition, she rushed out of the hospital room to search for him. During his escape, Luis was chased and stabbed, collapsing to the ground. As he lay there, he reflected on his life, how he had been mistreated countless times, but Anna's appearance was the healing remedy he needed. When Anna arrived at the scene, she found Luis lying motionless on the ground. She hugged him, crying, trying to wake him up. A month later, Luis finally regained consciousness. When he saw that Anna was still alive, he excitedly embraced her. She put the ring he had prepared on her finger and promised to never leave him. After enduring so many hardships, the couple finally found happiness.